Good afternoon, Trainiacs. Thanks to a microphone snafu yesterday, we got no audio for my regular morning Trainiacs. I was super excited and I went for an awesome bike ride and now you can't see my excitement. I don't know, Mel, just cut in like some hey, nice footage from me being excited yesterday. Obviously without any audio though. No big deal, because the gist of what we're talking about today is we are going to interview Matt Kerr. In just his third triathlon ever, he did a 9:21 Ironman, and in his second triathlon ever, he did a 4:28 Half Ironman, and he did it on low carb, high fat. So I just got off the phone with Matt Kerr. That is a damn talented athlete, and that is one serious time change between Australia and New Zealand and here. It's like you're on another continent or something. So I was put in touch with Matt, who just recently, in his very first Ironman, did a 9:21. Just prior to that, in his very first half Ironman, he did a 4:28. Dr. Dan Plews, the guy that, if you haven't been around, is consulting me leading into Challenge Roth. Now, Dan is an absolute expert in kind of long distance performance training. He's been published 24 times talking about topics like HRV for recovery and training management, low carb, high fat adaptation, nasal breathing he's been researching lately. And the guy walks the talk. He is a super busy dude himself, only trains up to 20 hours a week, and he set last year in 2018 the all-time Kona course record, winning the amateur division of Kona. He's serious. So Dan and I are working together, and if you want to get like a starter pack on going low carb, this is a little bit of what Dan is working with me on. You can go to triathlontaren.com/the Plews, and I've put together a free little starter pack. That's kind of a lot of the best ofs, getting started with low carb, high fat training for endurance athletes. But getting back to Matt. Matt is an awesome athlete. This 9:21 that he did, the 4:28 that he did, it was only the second and third race that he had ever done. And he doesn't really have a big sports background. You can see.
Reasonably, I played a bit of high school sports and water polo and whatnot, but the bike was certainly new to me, very new. So I've had a bit of time in the water and on the road running, but nothing at high competitive level or sort of long distance like this stuff. So yeah, this is all new, which is cool because it's all uncharted territory and you can sort of experiment with it.
He wasn't an elite swimmer. He sure wasn't an elite cyclist. You can take a look at him running, and it's not like he is this elite runner. He is clearly very new to the sport, but he is very talented and he's got good coaching. One thing that I asked Matt about, because when I went out this morning for the ride with nothing but my phone and a set of keys, and I was going out for 2.5 or 3 hours, it's a little frightening to think that I've got no gels or chews or bars to rescue me if things don't go well. But as Matt said here, it's a process where the first few times you go out, very scary, but you can get there.
I guess in that really structured stuff, I'd have some long rides on the weekends, and that was the Saturdays, whereby, you know, you'd be out for 4 to 5 hours, not fueled, first thing in the morning. And when you're first starting this diet, it's like, I'm never going to get to that. But all of a sudden, you're pretty comfy, you know, you're sipping on some water and you made a bit of coffee and cream before you go, and that's your fuel for the 5 or 6 hour ride that you've got to do and get done.
He said apparently after around 4, 5, 6 weeks after getting over the adaptation period, a little bit of the keto flu, because there is a keto component in it, not the whole thing, but you start feeling better around that time.
It took me a good 4 to 5 weeks, you know, even 4 to 6 weeks thereabouts. just went through a stage. I just cut all my carbs thereabouts. I had a weekend where I was pretty down and just got that whole, I guess, keto flu thing, and that was pretty horrible. But then you pop out of that.
A big question that I've got is, what do you take during racing? Well, as you can see with Matt, and this is what Dan Plews does, and I think this is what I am going to end up doing, you still have carbs at certain times.
I had gels. I had gels on the bike, and I had a bar each in transition, and just water. That was it.
Really?
I actually had a cup of Coke on the run, and I had like these chews. I think I had, what did I have? Let me see. I had 2 packs of those. So that's about 24 grams thereabouts of carbs across the run. So
you get fat adapted and then you race with carbs, and you can just Google the concept of train low, race high. That'll explain it. We had to give a shout out to Grant Schofield. That's Dan Plews' business partner, and I think somewhat of a mentor. He himself, I think, is a 152 Olympic distance former pro.
Well, Dan and Grant together, I just, things have fallen into place, and I've been so fortunate and lucky to have the knowledge that they've got, and be led and guided by them as to Dan, he speaks for himself around his record and whatnot.
And Grant Schofield is the author of What the Fat, What the Fast, and one other book. I can't think of what it is. We're going to try to get him on the podcast, and we'll talk about that. Matt and I, we talked about a lot of things, but one of the biggest ones is this is going to be hard. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not just change your diet and boom, everything is done. It's got to be done properly, and you've got to have a lot of willpower to do it.
Grant warned me pretty well. He said, just go and clean out your pantry, clean out your fridge, go to a shop, and don't have anything else than what you shop in there, because you will be tempted to starch away at it and snack away. So exactly, I did that.
So that's Matt. It was really neat talking to him. I got to say that now being 7 days into this process with the Plews, I'm interested. I'm talking to Matt, talking to the Plews, seeing the performances that the athletes that he coaches are starting to put out. I'm excited. So Trainiacs, go check out that free download if you want to get started with low carb, high fat training, triathlontaren.com/the Plews, because it's not as simple as just lower your carbs. I was trying to lower my carbs after talking to Dan the very first time on our podcast back in November, and I wasn't really seeing many changes because there's a lot more system that goes into it besides just eat less carbs and you'll be good. It's more complicated than that. So go check that out. And thanks to Matt for spending some time sharing his experience with me. Now, if you want to follow along with an athlete that is just taking up the sport, is super talented, wants to see how far he can go while being low carb, high fat, we will link to Matt's Instagram profile below. He hasn't posted a lot, but he says he's going to start more. And if you want to follow along with this entire low carb, high fat training process that we'll be doing up until the beginning of January, hit the subscribe button below. Whew, this is going to be tough. Later, Trainiacs.